Alrighty. And it says we're live. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another WineShark Wednesday. It is I, your host, WineShark. Happy holidays, everybody. Hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Sorry for my absence. As well. Celebrating and cooking and, well, drinking a lot of wine. I had some excellent selections from Texas, California, Germany, and where else? Oh, I had a Chilean one as well. So some fun things I hope you guys enjoyed some wonderful wine over your own time as well. It is that time of year for celebrations, and therefore wine features a lot into our daily lives. And so I hope you guys are getting a chance that, like I am. But I wanted to share something kind of fun and specific. Bottle that I bought for the grocery store grab kind of inspired a story that was in turn and actually inspired by one of my favorite wine authors. So we're going to talk a little bit today about what's in a name, or more importantly, the very cool character from wine history, Frank Schoonmaker. So originally I learned about this story via a book called The Juice by Jay McInerney, which is actually a collection of some assembled stories that he did, short pieces that he did for Food and Wine magazine, or no, it was House. Sorry, this was for the Wall Street Journal. He did articles for a lot of different places, and he's combined them all into several different books. So anyway, the point is, really cool story that I really enjoyed, and then I did a little digging on my own to share this about. So really, the grocery store grab and our Wente Southern Hills Cabernet Sauvignon inspired our whole topic today. So let's dig in just a bit. So Frank Schoonmaker, this guy was really interesting in a lot of different ways. I want you to remember kind of period of time here. We're beginning during the Prohibition era, from 1920 to 1933, of the prohibition of alcohol in the United States, and thus enters our character Frank. At this time, he's actually already out of college and decides that he's going to travel Europe in the 1920s, and he starts to explore the world of wine. Remember, because of Prohibition, obviously importing wine from Europe, which is the primary scale, and the burgeoning wine industry of California had basically collapsed. There's no opportunity to really get the stuff, and the bootleg world is really not too supportive. Native-built products wine is not one of the focuses, right? Beer and spirits are by far the dominant created things within the American bootlegging industry. Stuff that was actually imported or stored in bond beforehand. Remember, the idea was the sale prohibition let a lot of people stock up from 1919 to 1920 prior to this. But all in all, the world of wine was severely impacted by Prohibition. And so Schoonmaker goes over to Europe, gets kind of his own education on, and he's a writer. And so he starts writing. He comes back in 1934, right after Prohibition's over, and writes this book called The Complete Wine Book. He also did a book, I think, called something like Europe on $2 a Day. His explorations of Europe were kind of legendary in the travel world as well. But he comes back and starts this idea, this complete wine book, and starts working on kind of resurging not only the American wine industry, but the import of European wines, and kind of getting America back in the habit of drinking wine. Obviously, post-Prohibition, there's a wonderful opportunity here. So he's starting this up, and he's kind of exploring around. And one of the things he does is in 1940, he approaches under contract a group from Wente Vineyards and in California, and he pushes this idea of changing their naming convention. California wineries for many years had been imitating their European cousins and using the names that they used for their wines, even though their wines were called were named after the places that the wines were from. Specifically, according to McInerney's story, the Sauvignon Blanc, they were calling it Grave, which is the region, one of the most popular regions for Sauvignon Blanc in Bordeaux. And so Schoonmaker convinced them to change their naming, to basically name the wine after the varietal of the grape rather than the place. Because not only were they not being intellectually honest, this wasn't a wine from Grave, but they were segmenting themselves from their European counterparts and giving something that Americans could link into. This is the grape the wine is made from, rather than Well, this is from that place. Well, okay, what grows in that place? How does this wine taste from that place? So he really started this idea of changing up um, New World wine, and this is in 1940. Now, the war, World War II, comes along shortly thereafter with America's involvement in 41, and he joins up with the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services, which is basically a predecessor to the CIA, if you think about it that way. It was kind of part military intelligence, but part also state level intelligence, and they did all kinds of cool spy stuff during the war. And well, Frank was part of that whole affair. He was stationed in Spain and used that knowledge of wine and his assignments in Spain to get wine get his wine knowledge up, and basically also establish himself some business contacts for after the war. After the war, he partnered with a guy named Alexis Lachine, a story that I'll tell a little bit later about Lachine, because McInerney tells both of these guys' stories in very interesting ways. But Lachine and he partnered to reinvigorate again, to get now that the war is over, to restart this idea of European imports. Remember, World War II obviously was another huge interruption from European wine importing. And the United States hadn't really recovered yet. So, regarding their own wine industry post-prohibition, that is. So post-war, they start this partnership. Well, eventually, they fall out of partnership. They kind of go their own ways. But wines, especially the wines of Burgundy, were Schoonmaker's focus. And so he really kind of brought in a wine. He basically got our wine knowledge back up to par, and really promoted a lot of grower producers rather than negociants in Burgundy, including a lot of other French wine. So really have a lot of credit for getting us back into the habit of drinking European wine in the post-war period. But really on the bigger scale, over the next 20 or 30 years, the idea of the U.S. tradition of calling wines by their grape type rather than where they're from starts to spread throughout the rest of what we call the New World wine countries. So we're talking about Chile and Argentina, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Uruguay, et cetera, et cetera. All these places, Canada, we all in the New World, any place that's not in mainland Europe, we tend to call our wines by their grape, not their place. And I really think that's an interesting factor about how we in the West, in that New World, how we approach wine. I, as a U.S. wine drinker, most of the people that I know, U.S. wine drinkers, really have this firmly cemented. We think about wine by its grape type. And I think that's not only fascinating, especially because it's credited to basically this one person, but also the idea that that's a kind of a two-edged sword. On the one hand, I think the positive is, I think that we tend to think about what our wine is made from at the root level. No pun intended. We basically think about the grape type as controlling it rather than region, which is good in the sense that it gets us an understanding of the differences in why. Let's use the two examples of Bordeaux and Burgundy in France. That's basically the difference between Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot in Bordeaux and Pinot Noir in Burgundy. These are very different grape types with very different flavor profiles. Okay, so we understand, without knowing those place names, still understand that the differences in between the grape and how they taste. That's a good thing. On the other hand, the flip side of that sword is that I think a lot of new to wine drinkers can think that that's the only thing that impacts wine. That the grape varietal, while hugely important in a wine's taste, not all Pinot Noirs are the same. Not all Cabernet Sauvignons are the same. Not all any grape is the same. There's a lot of factors in not only where the grape grows, how it's harvested, and what the winemaker does with it once they get it off the vine, have a huge impact on the flavors of wine. And so, you've heard me harp for years now on the idea of, grapes aren't just a single thing. That Pinot Noir from New Zealand and Pinot Noir from Burgundy, France, and Pinot Noir from California and Pinot Noir from Oregon are all very different. Well, they're not very different, but they're definitely distinct things. So that's that kind of two-edged sword with the naming thing. I think it's fantastic that we do it this way, but it also puts an extra burden on us of responsibility towards stylistic and knowledge, right? So you can say, for instance, people say, I don't like Pinot Noir. My first question is, okay, what kind of Pinot Noirs have you had? If I know them and I know their flavor profile, some people just don't like Pinot Noir or whatever, giving an example, grape variety, they don't like it because they don't like the flavor profile. What really gets me curious as an educator is when somebody says something about not liking a particular grape, when I know that they're drinking something right in their hand that is very adjacent to and nearby that flavor. I'm like, what is it that's drawing the dislike? And oftentimes what I find is that that's a stylistic choice. So remember that, kind of in your wine education, that while what's in a name, it's very important to know the grape types and varietals. We talk in the grocery store grab about how I want to know exactly what types of grapes are in it. Good labeling can really help you understand a lot about those grape types and what those grapes bring to the table. However, you also must be respectful of regionality, stylistic choices, and winemakers themselves. So anyway, Frank Schoonmaker, really cool character from our wine history. McInerney calls him a writer, an importer, and a gentleman's spy, which really caught my attention in the first place. An interesting cat that you can go check out more information on. I'm actually going to put a link down in the description to the Wall Street Journal article that kind of inspired this. And my hat's off to Jay McInerney, of course, for his wonderful works, but also to just reading of stuff in various history books. He also wrote the Wine Encyclopedia, according to Frank Schoonmaker. So it's a kind of an interesting view on where we were in the world of wine back in the late 40s. So not necessarily an updated model of today, but definitely a wine history book that has its place in anybody who's trying to get educated in wine. So, all right. So I missed John Carey speaking up in the fence. Hello, Mr. John. Good to see you. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about our wine quiz. We've done our due diligence. Now it's time to stump the chump and see what yours truly likes. From my Wine Wars box right over here, we shall choose our random question. Very similar to Trivial Pursuits. 5 categories, 5 different questions. The categories are Vine to Vino, Graposphere, Wine Cellar, Wine and Food, and Cork Culture. Vine to Vino talks about growing grapes. Graposphere is about the varieties themselves. Cellar is about selecting, storing, and tasting. Wine and food would seem fairly obvious, but also cooking with wine and wine with food pairing, but also wine service is included there. And then cork culture, which is about people, businesses, arts, sciences, and general wine trivia. So, question numero uno. Well, we've got to read the front of the card, by the way. All right. True or false, new vines for a vineyard are started from seed? True or false? New vines for a vineyard started from seeds. This is an interesting one. Because one would think, generally speaking, when we talk about agriculture, etc., we grow a lot of stuff straight from seeds. The answer is false. Vines are not started from seeds. They're actually started from cuttings. They're basically clippings from existing wine vines. Says here on the back, it says false cuttings or clones are used to propagate new vines. Clones specifically just meaning of cloning the actual grapevine, but what that is, a specific varietal. So you might have I keep using Pinot Noir in this example, you might have Pinot Noir clone 443, and that's the actual designation of this particular one. Winemakers often seek out very specific clones for their properties, whether it is the resilience to certain diseases or conditions, their particular fruit properties, etc. Just like breeding in any other sort of agriculture, it really kind of helps to get just the right stuff. So, all right, so that's 1 for 1. Next up, we've got true or false. California's Valdepeña grapes from the Central Valley are suspected mistaken identity and may actually be Tempranillo grapes. So, true or false. California's Valdepeñas, that's the proper pronunciation, Valdepeñas, grapes from the Central Valley are suspected of a mistaken identity, maybe actually Tempranillo grapes. Now, not to comment on this, but to give you hints to think about, this stuff there is precedent for this in the wine world. Carmenere, the once thought to be a highly reduced / long lost grape from France that was lost in the phylloxera plagues, was discovered, air quotes, in Chile back in the 1990s. They thought it was Merlot for many years, and it was the mistaken identity of Merlot when they actually typed it, had it genetically tested, and found out, why, look, we have all this Carmenere around. So there is precedent for this. I'm going to go ahead and say true. That stuff happens all the time. Amphilography was, before the age of genetics, amphilography was kind of a dark art. So let's see what it says on the back. It says true. They're used as a secondary grape in California jug wines. I don't think we like to refer them as jug wines anymore. Not after the, our awakened identities. Anyway, so yes, so Valdepeñas or Tempranillo grapes. So yeah, so California Tempranillo. Looks like we're not calling it Tempranillo for reasons. But all right, so that's 2 for 2. Next question. What tasting term and quality characteristic describes a wine's final impressions or aftertaste that persists after swallowing the wine? That's a complicated sentence. I like that. What tasting term and quality characteristic describes a wine's final impressions or aftertaste that persists after swallowing the wine? So to demonstrate, after we've had our sip, we breathe in, we usually get those extra aromas. But even if we're just sipping, we tend that lingering flavor. Right? The shorthand for this is just lingering flavor. But what is the proper term we use in the industry? The word is finish. The wine's finish. This one says or length, which have finish, and then we describe the length of finish, whether it's a short or long. Now here it says a long finish is good, a short finish is lacking. That is 100% bullshit. That is a feature, not a bug. Just because a wine has a short finish does not make it worse or better than any other wine. Especially when we're talking about wine and food pairings, wines with long finishes tend to be more complicated and more difficult to pair with because their flavors linger long, they play with the food longer. If I want something that's very delicate or subtle and I want the wine to go away very quickly, a short finish is an absolutely admirable trait. So, while I'm correct here, the card is wrong. I declare it. Thus it is declared. Write it down, Biff. All right, next question. True or false? Wine bottling or packaging includes cartons like those used for milk and ring pull cans like those used for soft drinks. We've covered this a lot. True or false? Wine bottling contains cartons that are like milk or ring pull cans, bags and boxes, or what else have I seen? I've seen all kinds of stuff. The answer is, well, that's true. Wine's got lots of different packaging options, especially as we move forward. We are realizing that more packing options are better for the consumer and better for the wine. The use of the wine bottle, while it is a hundreds of year old tradition, is not exactly the best way to serve wine. Especially once we figure out how aging really works and we can do aging in different ways. I think that we're going to see a shift, or at least you might see a split in the front end of the lower end world. In other words, at the grocery store or common table wine level, you're going to see an approach to where packaging, more modern packaging, starts to overtake the traditional bottle. Unless you're leaning into brands that are trying to be lifestyle style brands where they're talking to you and you want to be seen drinking. But you know me, I'm all about the bag and box wines. I want really good wine or really good wineries to start putting their stuff in bag and box for people that only drink one glass at a time, because it's just better for us, it's better for the environment, it's better for shipping, it's better for cost, and it's better for the consumer because you can enjoy your wine glass at a time. All right, 5 for 5, and 4 for 4 rather. And our fifth question, another true or false. True or false? White wine can be used as an alternative to bleach, the ammonia-based household disinfectants. True or false? White wine can be used as an alternative to bleach, the ammonia-based household disinfectants. Oh, and ammonia-based. Sorry, bleach and ammonia, two separate things. Like bleach and ammonia are not the same thing. Using white wine as a cleaner. Well, it's a fairly low alcohol by volume. I don't know necessarily that it does the appropriate disinfectant role. I'm going to go ahead and say false. This says true, according to 2007 Oregon State University study. Well, all right, OSU. I don't know what the ducks know about using wine to clean stuff, but that's an interesting thing. I'd love to see what the disinfecting properties of, because there's acid in there too. You got a pretty low pH, so maybe that's what the cleaning element is. Though I'd recommend using something a little less, expensive, I suppose. But hey, industrial use for wine, it's happened year over year over year. But anyway, so that's the wine quiz. Hope you guys enjoyed. Always kind of fun. Like I said, don't choose these questions ahead of time. They're just fun to kind of test ourselves, something to chat about. And last but not least, let's talk about the grocery store grab. I've already given you a clues and a hints of today's grocery store grab is. Today's grocery store grab is the Wente Vineyards Southern Hills Cabernet Sauvignon. This is from the Livermore Valley. So Livermore, for those that are not familiar with the geography of California, is just east of San Francisco. It's in the East Bay. Kind of an unlikely spot, one would think, especially when we're used to places like Sonoma and Napa. They're very popular and chic destinations. They're just north of the San Francisco and San Pablo Bays, and they're up in the country and the rolling hills and all that. Well, this is the rolling hills that are just east, and Livermore is a wonderful little Wente Vineyards is just this little kind of tucked away spot up there in the hills. And unfortunately, the city and urban growth has grown all the way nearly to the edge of this, but it's kind of amazing sometimes when you just go just another mile down the road, so to speak, and you find you're actually back in the country. Wente is definitely like that. So, as I said, Frank Schoonmaker approached Wente, and they were one of the first people in California to begin using the grape names as on their labeling. This is the Cabernet Sauvignon. Now, Southern Hills, this is a specific vineyard location. Okay, so this basically says it's estate grown on the label. You can barely see on the sides of that little center marker of W there, that little monogram right there in the middle. It says estate grown. That means all the grapes are grown in one place on a single piece of land, as opposed to grapes that are harvested from several different vineyards. Okay, but once again, in terms of prestige, that is generally considered a better thing because you can taste the differences between two different vineyards. However, with a large producer like Wente, this is by the way, I think this was originally priced at $17. With a club store pricing, it was $13. Getting that level of estate typicity, where you can literally taste the difference between this and that, I'm not sure that I would actually expect that at this price point. As you creep up the price points and you get into that $40, $50 range, sure, you're going to be able to taste some of those very specific vineyards, especially if you taste them back to back. But for this one in particular, without a comparison point, I'm not sure that you would necessarily benefit from it. But they're Southern Hills Cabernet Sauvignon. Let's go ahead and give it a go. On the label, as I said, I've shown you the label there. Here on the back of the label, again, this was selected for the purpose of the story, so let's see how well they score. What we want to know is that the grocery store grab, in case you don't shop at a big box retailer or specialty wine store, we're here to get the best value per dollar for our wines, which are often found at grocery stores. Unfortunately, what grocery stores don't lack is usually a trained staff to help you pick out your wine. So we focus on label first. We want to know where the wine is grown, what's in the bottle, if it's a blend, what type of grapes and what percentage are they used. And we want to see common flavor words, like what does the wine taste like, right? If you're not familiar with what Cabernet Sauvignon in California is like yet, maybe you need some hints, especially if you're new to your wine journey. So, Wente Vineyards here on the back, Livermore Valley. Since 1883, 5 generations of our family have handcrafted fine wines that express the very best of our estate vineyards. This wine is named for our vineyards located along the southern hills of Livermore Valley. Ideal sites for growing Cabernet Sauvignon of distinct character, depth, and intensity. This wine shows ripe black cherry and plum flavors, soft tannins, and undertones of coffee and spice. Family owned, estate grown, sustainably farmed. So, a lot of the information that we're looking there, it tells us where it's from. In fact, even specifically, it tells us what's in the bottle, Cabernet Sauvignon. So we know at least a 75% Cabernet Sauvignon, although I wouldn't be surprised if it is actually 100. And it does finally give us some flavor words. We're talking about plum, black cherry, soft tannins, so we're looking for more of a plush mouthfeel, and undertones of coffee and spice. Very descriptive. So not bad, Wente. This is a really good wine label, if you ask me. It tells us all the kind of information that we need to know. That's definitely the only thing we could be missing there is maybe some some pairings with food. But as I said over the course of this channel, that's becoming rarer and rarer, especially specific examples. So those are usually used as kind of gold stars on the top. But this is definitely a straight A on all the information we kind of want. So let's take a look here. I've already kind of had a sip or two here, so I can not truly new to the wine, but the color is deep and intense, right? It looks like it's got a good degree of actual grape extraction to it. It's nice and dark, very deep garnet color, very almost purplish on the nose. Very fruity, and you can kind of smell a little bit of heat and alcohol in here. not that heat being spicy or piquant, but definitely can smell if you're attuned into alcohol. That smells a little bit alcoholic. But fruit, it definitely has that black fruit profile that I would expect out of a Cabernet Sauvignon from Northern California. It is black cherry, dark plum, maybe a hint of blackberry, and that spice note right on the back. There's that. I mean, we often call them baking spices, but we think about nutmeg and cinnamon and things like that. There's these hint of brown spices that often come along with the oak aging and these bigger styles of wine from Northern California that are very present there. I'm not really getting the coffee note yet, but let's see how it does on the finish with some analysis. So take a sip here. Okay. It is a big wine. Tannins. The tannin profile. Very plush. This is there's nothing really that's gripping the center of your tongue. Most of it's on the insides of your lips and your cheeks. Everywhere it goes, it carries flavor. It's very mild in its tannin profile. Same thing with oak. Definitely transmits fruit forward, fruit first. There's not a lot of nuance to it. Those black fruit flavors linger. It's got a medium plus or long, fully long finish. It lingers around. Remember our quiz word on finish. And the spice notes definitely are part of what lingers around that. The fruit starts to fade. The spice notes kind of last. And like I said, I'm still not getting that coffee that they're declaring. But hey, that's everybody's palate's a little bit different. And maybe with more analysis and some not only some air on the wine here, but some more time with it, I might catch that. But nice, approachable. This is for cab for this level for $13, man. This is kind of what I turn people on to. It's not, it's not gonna change your world from a Cabernet Sauvignon perspective. But at this price point, I wouldn't expect it to. This is a great daily drinker. It's a perfect example of why you pay $13 for a bottle and not $5, right? Because what you're getting out of this, at least, is that smooth tannin profile, that flavor potential, some good structure to it, without being, overly harsh in any one area. Now, I said it does smell and taste a little bit on the hot side. I'm betting the alcohol on this is probably about 14.5, if not full 15. Let me look here. Somewhere on the label, the law says you have to be. Only 13.5. Well, it's a little cooler than I thought. But again, it doesn't blow out the flavor profile at all. It definitely has enough fruit in there to compete with its alcohol and its tannins. So from a balance perspective, it is very much a New World fruit forward guy. But if that's what you like, this is definitely up your alley. You should try out some Wente Southern Hills Cabernet Sauvignon. Big foods with this, right? This is warm. This is definitely a warm wine, warm flavors with cold weather that we're doing right now in the late fall. So I'm thinking French onion soup, and I'm also thinking like some lamb or like some pork sausage products. I'm thinking about things like that. Italian sausage, maybe red sauce. Good stuff. No, not a lot of acid. Not a lot of mouth watering here. So probably stay away from tomatoes proper. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the grocery store grab. Go out and grab yourselves a bottle. As far as upcoming events, holiday parties are in full swing. I'll be doing those at various points in time over the course of the next 4 weeks. I hope everybody's preparing themselves for whatever holiday celebrations that you have. And I hope you guys will tell me what kinds of wines and what wonderful experiences you've had and brought to us here. I think the fun thing that I had, the standout interesting wine for the holiday was William Chris Vineyards, one of my favorites here in Texas. They have a wine that they made specifically for HEB and HEB Central Market called Carry On. It's a Carignan blend that was a wonderful addition to our post-Thanksgiving celebration. So definitely check it out with your next charcuterie board. Swing by HEB and pick up some Carignan. Carry On from William Chris. But until next time, guys, I have been your WineShark. If you like what you're seeing, hit that like and subscribe button down below. Join us here on the channel. Don't hesitate to ask any questions in your comments or shoot them to me over on wineshark.com. If you'd like to follow us over on Patreon, I got some changes coming up to Patreon dramatically for 2023. We're going to be restructuring the entire thing and doing some interesting things because we haven't done enough to do right by my Patreons this year. We need to do better. So, until next time, guys, I've been your WineShark. Cheers.